Hi there, it's Pop Man. I'm doing a quick deck tech on this mono blue mill deck that I've made. I made it originally off a list from someone else, and it's changed quite considerably from the list that I originally played. The original list had tons and tons of counter spells, and it's basically all counter spells, and then you do like Frail Insanity into Startled Awake, and that's basically all you do. But I found it was a bit weak to certain decks, so I've tweaked it a lot. Now you can see the main idea is basically it still relies on Frail Insanity, and Startled Awake is like the main way you win. You can win on turn 5 of this combination because you go turn 3 Frail Insanity, turn 4 play another one, turn 5 Startled Awake, it mills them for 52 cards, which is enough to kill anyone. You can also do turn 3 Frail Insanity and then turn 4 Awake followed by turn 5 Awake, and that's the same 52 cards. So you can get cheap wins like that. When that doesn't come into fruition, there are other ways to win the game. You got lots of cheap cycling cards. You got Hieroglyphic Elimination, which you very, very rarely will cast for 4. You're nearly always just cycling it. Same with Compelling Argument. You very rarely actually cast this card. You generally just cycling it. You only really want to cast it when you're trying to finish off your opponent's last like 5 or 10 cards in their library. Censor again, you can cycle that, and occasionally you catch people out and you can counter whatever they're trying to do, slow them down, keep you alive whilst you're milling them down. Supreme Will is like I'm still not convinced by this card. I originally had 4, I've cut it down to 2, but at the same time I feel like if any card can currently be cut, it could be Supreme Will, and maybe I bring in like the Vessel of Paramnesia, which has been okay. I've tried it in the main deck and it's decent. It does help with Delirium as well, with the Manic Scribe. So the Vessel might be a better card than Supreme Will, but I do like Supreme Will against the slower decks. It's just sometimes it's a bit clunky when you're trying to mill them out like super fast. Winter Rebuke, again, it bounces anything, bounces planeswalkers, creatures, whatever, anything but a land, and also mills them for 2, so it keeps you alive. It's a good tempo swing and gets them milling. Like I've always spoken about Manic Scribe. Delirium is not easy to get in this deck, but it's not hard. You get it sort of 50% of the time probably without too much effort, because you have like lots of instant sorceries, your creatures randomly die, and then you can also randomly mill over land with Winds of Rebuke, or you can sacrifice lands to the Ipunu Rivulet. So it's not too hard to get Delirium. Minister Quarries is very important in this deck. It's a brilliant thing just to slam down turn 2 and you get some energy and you start milling your opponent. It's not always right just to mill them straight away. Sometimes you want to play it and then like not mill them until you can land a Frail Insanity, because then you can mill them for 6 with 1 activation of this, and then 12 the next turn, and then you finish them off with like a Startled Awake. I think that's pretty much the Anticipate as well. Anticipate is very important. I didn't have it in the original list, but I think it is actually really good because you want to get Frail Insanity on turn 3 as often as possible, and with all the cycling and then the Anticipates as well, it makes you get Frail Insanity like turn 3 as often as possible. Anyway, that's the main deck. By the way, you can get away with playing just 22 lands. Because of all the cycling and Anticipates, you don't really have much of a high curve. So 22 is just right. I've tried it at 21 and you get mana screwed. Tried it at 23, you get flooded too often. 22 seems perfect. Also got the Gaia Reach Sanitarium, which you can win the game with. Like when they have 0 cards in the deck, I actually literally won the game of it on the last game I played before I started recording. The guy flashes in Torrential Gearhulk to try and flashback memory from Commit to Memory to like recycle his entire graveyard to stop me from milling them out. So in response, I sacrificed the Ipnu Rivulet to get him down to 0 cards in his library, and then activate Gaia Reach Sanitarium to make everyone draw a card. And because he's got an empty library, with the Gearhulk still on the stack, everyone tries to draw a card, and when you try and draw a card with an empty library, as you know, you lose the game. So this is a really good little way of just getting those other wins from strange sort of situations like that. And it's also good just to, if you run out of gas, maybe you've got nothing to do and you just want to draw some cards or whatever. And also making people discard cards can also trigger the sanity, so it's a decent little one-off, and it's harmless to play really because you've got so many blue sources that it's quite easy to play just one of these. The Aether Hub is purely there to fuel the Minister of Quarries and nothing else. Anyway, Sideboard. Sideboard's still up for debate, to be honest. It's kind of tough to what to put in there. Negates, I want 4 of them just because against control they're the best card you can have. I also bring in Essence Scatters against control because if you can just stop their Gearhulks or whatever, then they find it very, very difficult to do anything. Crooked Combination is good against random graveyard decks. The Vessel again is kind of questionable, but I'm leaving it in there for now. It comes in against control when the match slows down, basically. Helps set up Delirium, and just, yeah, it's alright. The Familiars only come in against a red deck, just gaining that life and hopefully getting a block off and drawing a card is decent. You don't want to bring in too much stuff against red deck because you don't want to slow yourself down too much, but you do also need to stay alive. So these are good against red deck. Summary Dismissal is basically there. It can come in against control. You probably don't really need it. It's basically there against green red ramp. If they like World Break and they try and exile your Fray Insanity or whatever, you can just Summary Dismissal them. And then lastly, another thing which is questionable at the moment, I've got 2 Baral's Expertise, where you can bounce 3 creatures basically. This comes in against like mid-rangey decks, like green-black Delirium, sort of green-black energy. It's decent, like if they just land a bunch of threats and you can just be like big tempo swing, bounce 3 things back to the hand, play something for 3 mana or less, and it's decent. So anyway, that's the idea of the deck. You just mill your opponent down, get them to 0 cards, and let's get into a league and see what happens.